Short, stocky, and immensely powerful, he was the kind of soldier who wouldn't balk at anything, a man perhaps without a discernible conscience. He rose rapidly in the old Yugoslav army because he was ruthlessly efficient. When Yugoslavia broke up, he was given the job of creating the Bosnian Serb army. He couldn't have been more different from his political boss, the Bosnian Serb President Radovan Karadzic, a head-in-the-clouds theorist who sometimes seemed worried by the casualties from the war. Mladic had no such doubts.
Here was a bombastic thug who had no sense of the rules of warfare, and if he did, he ignored them. They were not important.
Most of the foreign correspondents who had to confront him were deeply scared of him. He beat up a Reuters correspondent, and I once watched him almost throttle a Dutch reporter I was with. His bodyguards would certainly have killed us both if he'd given them the order. And no one on either side had any doubt at all that the responsibility for the major crimes carried out by the Bosnian Serbs was his. First was the siege of Sarajevo. It was like something out of the Middle Ages. In winter, Mladic cut off supplies of fuel and food. In the heat of summer, he cut off the water. The unfortunate inhabitants had to endure almost daily sniping and regular mortar attacks. But the chief accusation against him remains the Srebrenica massacre. It was deliberate and carefully planned, and yet completely pointless from any conceivable military point of view. At the time and later, it seemed like genocide, pure and simple.
He himself commanded the army that surrounded and then invaded Srebrenica. He threatened the UN peacekeepers from Holland at the time and so on. So he knew exactly what was going on in Srebrenica, and I would be very surprised if he is not found guilty of that crime amongst others.
This was by far the worst series of war crimes in Europe in 60 years. Over time, bodies have continued to emerge from the mass graves. It was an immense embarrassment that Mladic should have stayed free for all these years, given the unthinkably long tally of the victims.